Comics are a prime multimodal form of art and communication. With the many factors to manipulate, such as color, drawing, script, and strategic spatial managing, a skilled artist and writer can create a phenomenal work of art. In my experience of reading comics, the one aspect that fascinates me the most, and I feel is most unique to comics, is panel shaping and arrangement. In the case of Hawkeye, or Clint Barton, his story is represented amazingly well in Matt Fraction and David Aja's series. Because Clint has no superpowers, some may see him simply as the minor character with the bow and arrow, not as appealing as Iron Man or Thor. However, through panel manipulation, the series reveals that Hawkeye is not only physically capable, but also has a deep and emotional story to tell. To achieve that desired effect, comic artists such as Fraction and Aja must consider how the panels on the page should be spaced and arranged so that the events can connect with each other in the best possible fashion. Consider the differences between the two rows. The small squares at the top row would generally divide events in more detail and scrutiny, while the bottom row panels put pauses on events due to the relatively large space they take up. Or perhaps the effects can be merged. A pause is put on the background panel because Clint is focused on himself and very unaware of his surroundings. The panels reveal that without any explicit dialogue. Imagine what the different potential shapes panels could take, how the variety of arrangement increases. Fraction also uses panels to manipulate the perception of time in order to emphasize action and portray Hawkeye's abilities. The contrast between the large and small panels depicts the time frame of the events. The real time is slowed down and distributed among 14 panels, while the thought process Clint goes through is only represented in 5. All 14 of the small panels spell out only one sentence, which only takes a couple seconds to say. The direct comparison demonstrates how intimidating Clint's abilities are. Here, the actions of Clint had to be depicted as swift. The action is particularly important to the story because the audience needs to believe that Clint's speed is competent enough that the villain does have difficulty matching him physically. The rolling action would have certainly felt more slow if divided among 3 panels, but in the fashion done here, Hawkeye clearly rolls within a split second. Panels can not only manipulate time, but they can also set the tone of the story. In issue 13, the panel designs are actually dull. They are completely normal in an even 3x3 arrangement, with every panel having the same dimensions on every page in the issue, without exception. Although the panel arrangement could be anything but creative or innovative at first glance, the structure actually shapes the whole tone of the story. As Clint drinks alcohol to deal with a recent martyr, the positioning of the phone panels places focus on the significance of how the phone call interferes with Clint's life. Since each panel must be of equal size, the phone ringing and hanging up visually blots out a large part of the page. Consequently, the arrangement suggests that Clint dreads the phone call and would much rather not deal with the chore. While Clint takes a ride to a funeral, the static nature of the panels reflects the slowness of the traffic the characters are in, as well as the grave tone. The connections that are circled not only make a smooth transition from one panel to the next, but also establish a sense of the reassurance that Kate tries to give Clint. The bottom row also develops Kate's bond with Clint by becoming the shape inside the car that they are in, which shortens their distance. The last page of the issue puts closure on the somber tone of the issue. Although Clint has no speech bubbles at all, the panels reveal his thoughts. He is experiencing a tough situation in his life and he is unsure as to how he will move on. So the remaining panels that have an obligation to follow the pattern throughout the issue are filled with him simply staring out overhead deep in thought. Clint feels his life is in disarray and is unsure how to move on. The static, uncomfortably rigid arrangement of the panels emphasizes the events and connections between the panels as they pass by Clint's life. As the events happen, Clint feels troubled and hopelessly stuck, and the panels reflect Clint's sentiments by literally shaping them. Incredibly, static and bland panel arrangement can represent distress and discomfort in the story, but Fraction's edition of Hawkeye also has more creative examples of how panels open up to emotions. In issue 12, Clint's brother, Barney, is on a journey to meet Clint, and as he struggles, he reminisces about the close relationship they had. The panels are arranged so that the artist effectively elicits poignant emotions from the reader. The chapter starts out with noticeably shrunk panels that do not take up much space on the page at all, while Barney tries to contact Clint, but fails. The act of the doorbell ringing is repeated among the many panels. The artist could have spared us the details and only showed Barney ringing the doorbell twice, but Barney is desperate, so all 6 times he rings the doorbell are drawn. Each attempt hopes that his brother will respond. Not only are instant-by-instant panels drawing out a situation for a desperate effect, through several small panels, the whole page accumulates into an unimaginable, intense pain. Each punch, kick, and injury is giving its own panel, with each painful moment being drawn out. The scene is emotional because Barney is willing to let himself go through the pain for money. To further emphasize Barney's pain, an example of breaking a character into pieces is used in the bottom panels. Not only is Barney going through great pain, but the constant beating is tearing him apart. If all 3 panels had been merged into one panel, there would be no indication that Barney is reaching his limit. Many examples of the technique are used in this issue. Whenever the character is in a stressed or unstable situation, their bodies cross into another panel. Having a character split up between panels demonstrates that the character has trouble keeping their composure. They literally have trouble keeping themselves together, and instead, they are very disturbed or afraid. More powerful emotions are expressed with the skillful transitions between the present and flashbacks, without any text to aid the transition. From past to present, the two panel dimensions are the same. The two panels, parallel in subject matter and dimensions, create a smooth and uninterrupted transition between a large leap of time, circumventing the fundamental constraint of comics to express time. The differences in panel shape activate the emotion in Barney and Clit's past. In the present, the corners are right angles, but in the flashbacks they are not. The bubbly nature of the flashback panels gives the memories sentimental value, while the right-angled rectangular panels depict the present as Barney's reality. The writer is not explaining Barney's past. Barney is actually thinking about the past in the present. Another emotional moment that Fraction and Aja capture well is the death of Clint and Barney's parents. Panel shapes take on the form of fire and broken glass. The terrified faces of the parents being trapped inside the shapes of the panels emphasizes how frightening the incident was and how devastating the accident is to the children. As observed, the panel shapes and arrangements are crucial in any comic when an artist wants to depict action, construct tone, or express emotion. When the lesser-known Avenger gets his chance to shine, effective panel arrangement reveals that the Marvel Universe is more than superheroes confronting world-scale catastrophes. The Marvel Universe is also full of local conflicts that affect normal people.